Hi guys, Mike of Mike Reviews It All and Fights with Friends. This is the first time we're going to be doing like a tech hour. I'm going to call it a tech hour. There's no specific time based on this. It's just a casual conversation with a friend. Actually, one of the members of Fights with Friends. He helps me out on the channel. He's one of my moderators, and he knows a lot more about computers and technology than myself, which is not real hard. But my guest, Jason Azevedo. How are you doing today, Jason?
Doing good, Mike. Thanks.
Good. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Uh, we were talking before about the world of PC and console and kind of the choices that people have out there right now, and it really depends a lot what you want to do with your PC. But I was talking to you how I was always a console gamer, and I never understood why people would PC gaming. I thought it was a pain, but now that I'm doing all this editing and doing all this stuff on my computer all the time, it's like now I don't want to go over and turn on a console anymore. Now I understand it. I just want to stay here with the PC. So why don't you talk to me a little? What do you think kind of changed the PC gaming, and when do you think people kind of started switching over to bigger games? I guess we talked about, I guess, the PlayStation 2 was the number one selling console of all time. Maybe that's a good place to start.
Okay, well, PlayStation 2, I think what made it so successful was all the great games that it had. At the time, you couldn't really have that kind of experience on a PC because PS2 just had so many great exclusives. Today, it sort of changed a little bit. A lot of PlayStation exclusives are now available on PC, and the experience tends to be better on PC, but only if you're willing to cough up the extra cash to make that experience better.
Yeah, I meant to ask you, and I waited for the interview though. So a person looking to game on a PC, something that's comparable to a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One today, what's an estimate of what they'd have to put out on something like that?
To have an equivalent, well, there's a PS2 or PS4 Pro and PS4, like the basic model. And for the PS4 Pro, to get an equivalent with a PC, you probably have to, if you were buying a pre-built PC, you'd probably have to spend somewhere in the ballpark of $700-800 to get something equivalent. Because I'm looking on Newegg right now. It's a very popular PC computer website, and I'm looking at an ABS Fort desktop for $449, and the GPU is a lot worse than a PS4 Pro, and it's around the same price as a PS4 Pro, but the GPU is a lot weaker.
So if somebody's looking for just
Just gaming.
gaming, then the cheaper option is still definitely going to be the console.
Exactly. You can't compare, like, if you're spending the same price as a PS4 Pro, unless even if you build it yourself and maybe you get really good deals on individual parts, maybe then you can come to an equilibrium. But as far as what I can see today, and things always change, like there was a GPU price increase in the past, earlier this year, and GPU price skyrocketed. Then it was a no-brainer for a console. But now the GPU prices have come down, the RAM prices have come down recently, and still the better buy for just purely gaming is a PS4 or an Xbox One.
That was largely due to crypto mining, I
Exactly.
believe. Yeah, I had several friends that really got into crypto mining, and a really good friend that really tried to get me in building the machines, and I was kind of hesitant sitting back on the sidelines, and now I'm glad I did. I'm not saying it won't bounce back, but
Yeah, I thought about getting into it, but I kind of knew it was going to collapse at any moment, and sure enough, it did.
Yeah, I think whenever you have something that's not regulated and has no rules or anything like that, and I mean the security holes in it were absolutely ridiculous. I'm kind of surprised, honestly. It's been legal in the United States and Canada and other countries for as long as it has been,
Yeah, it is
without
very surprising.
without putting more security roadblocks and things in. So, but I'm glad that the GPUs have came down. I was trying to play. It was very frustrating. It's very frustrating. I'm 40 years old. There's, I don't know, 80 to 100 million of us in the country. Right now, it's one of the biggest age groups in the country, even bigger than the baby boomers. Us around 30 to 45. And it was frustrating. I was trying to play like an old Street Fighter game from Capcom, and it's like old games. David bought it when we paid for it. It was like $40, and it was just a collection, but you could play online, and it wouldn't work because my graphics card didn't support, whatever. I can't remember even what it was. I want to say
DirectX.
what's DirectX? Yes, thank you. I think it was DirectX 11. Yeah, David was just telling me he came in here too. So that was very frustrating. And so then I learned. He showed me that you can, kind of upgrade your computer a little bit. It looks like for $55, you can get a graphics card to, get you going, in the right direction a little bit. But
Well, an equivalent PS4 Pro graphics card retails for around $250, $220. That's just for the graphics card.
I thought it had an equivalent Canadian. I'm talking about
okay. So a person just with a regular card, but and how hard do you think it is for just the average person that doesn't know much about computers? How extensive do you think they should really go into, replacing these kinds of things? It makes me very uncomfortable.
Well, you have to sort of know what you're doing. Especially if you're upgrading the graphics card, you have to make sure your power supply will provide enough power for it. Because the newer graphics cards, especially the more powerful graphics cards, will use a lot more power.
Oh, see, I didn't know that at all. So, what would it do to your computer? Say, if I didn't have a powerful enough adapter and I put that graphics card in.
Well, if you didn't have the recommended power, it probably wouldn't boot. If you don't have enough power going to it, it'll just probably won't run to its full potential. Like its clock speed will be severely compromised. I've never actually tried it, but it's always recommended to have a minimum recommended power supply for the GPU you're putting into your system.
Okay, yeah, that's why I ask these kinds of questions, and that's why I'm uncomfortable with it, because obviously I don't want to spend a lot of money on something that I'm not able to put in or don't know, and I know there's other people out there that don't want to get into that.
Yeah, also another limiting factor with upgrading your computer is you have to make sure the performance of your CPU and GPU will work together properly, because if you have a very weak CPU and you buy a top of the line GPU, your GPU will only be utilized up to say 70-80%.
So
You'll be missing out on performance if you don't have a good enough CPU for your GPU, and the same goes if you have a weak GPU and a very powerful CPU. You could also be missing out there, but only if you're gaming at really high frames.
okay, that makes sense to me. Kind of, I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
It's complicated if you've never looked into it before. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, I'm finding, and I'm sure a lot more people from my generation. I mean, because I graduated in '97, so like, I mean, the internet was so new. You'd sit there and wait, 5 minutes for a picture to come up. A lot of us probably thought we were a lot more techie than we were, especially if you walked away for a few years. And now that I'm doing something more complicated, like dealing with YouTube and editing and stuff, it's like, man, I really start to feel really kind of stupid some days, especially with the OBS. I'm sure you've seen me, a Dutch guy over there in Amsterdam. He's sitting there trying to coach me through some of the things. He's like, "It's easy, man. Just move this, and this." I'm like, "Wait, what was the first one again?" It's like, it's like I missed a gap in a language somewhere.
Hmm. Yeah, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Still learning.
Yeah. Well, and especially for guys, and I know people don't like to group people up into things, but I mean, that's kind of my opinion. Everybody does have preferentials. I think guys are, we like to build things. So I think it is very appealing, something that we can continue to learn and continue to progress. And, it keeps our mind going, and women too, not just guys. I mean, I'm not, trying to stereotype as that, but it is, just like YouTube. YouTube's an 80% male orientated spectrum. That's just the statistics. But it does speak to us as a language, I think, and I think maybe it takes over from the mechanicing, from when so many people used to be able to work on our cars, and we've always liked to tinker with things. So I have been fun learning some new things on it. Do you watch, I know I'm kind of moving subjects here, but do you watch conventional TV anymore? Do you have a television in your house for like Netflix and that kind of thing?
Well, I do have a TV, but I do not watch any TV. My TV is pretty much just to stream a movie. If I have somebody over, we're going to watch a movie, I'll stream the movie from my computer to the TV. Other than that, I do not watch TV.
Okay. Yeah, I have a older PC hooked up to my computer. I was watching things, but for a lot of people, and especially for my wife, she's like, this is a pain in the butt. So I did end up going and getting, like, I have the Roku Ultra, even though she can watch it on the PS3 and she can watch it on other things. It makes it, it's very user friendly, and it actually is really nice, I think, for people that are looking for something that just want to turn it on and they want it to work. You don't want to wait for anything to load. You don't want to, you just want to go there and go, boom, this is my channel, or this is my movie, and I want to watch it, and it's instant. So I do really enjoy it.
I'm not even sure if they have Roku in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that. It's kind of like, yeah, it's like, I don't know what to explain it like, but it's just very simple. I guess it has more the feel of like an old cable TV box, I guess, and just, it's easier and makes you feel more comfortable. But I actually use it quite a bit, just because, it loads up very fast and there's not a whole lot to do. Kind of has a preface, almost kind of like a big tablet, I guess. You have like all your apps, kind of like you have Netflix and Hulu and different things.
I'm so busy watching different creators on YouTube that I don't really have time to watch movies and TV shows and stuff like that. And other than that, I play video games, and that's pretty much all the entertainment I consume.
Yeah, a younger generation, because you're around my age, I believe, right? Well, you're a little younger than I am.
I'm 31.
31. Oh, okay. You're 10 years younger than me then. Sorry, I wasn't sure. So you're kind of almost a whole different generation. That explains why you're a little more knowledgeable. What do you think? See, I thought these were really stupid when they first came out, about all these Chromebooks that are coming out right now, and they're like $150, but I mean, maybe it's a good thing for like a kid's first device or for like an older person.
Yeah, sure. If you're like on a budget, you're not going to be doing any like gaming. Like some games will run on it. Like there are like very low budget games with not a lot of graphical horsepower required to run that you probably could run on it. As far as just surfing the internet goes, like, it's perfectly fine.
Okay, probably YouTube videos and stuff like that. Probably about the extent of it.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine for that.
Yeah, I want to make sure not to upset the very sensitive tablet-orientated gaming community. No, I'm joking. I don't think it exists, but I
Well, I'm sure the people with those devices, I'm sure that probably is what they would game on. But
my
yeah,
wife, I call her a phone gamer because she's always playing some little game on her phone, but it's always something similar to like the Candy Crush structure, but it's always something new.
I kind of feel bad for those people because the experience is so horrible compared to a PC or an Xbox. It's like they're missing out on such a good gaming experience playing those type of games.
Yeah, I just couldn't get into it, and because I tried to download a couple games because we were on road trips. My wife was driving, and it's like she's driving for like 10 hours or something. So I tried a couple things. It's just like, man, there's not really much of anything I can get into here. So yeah, if I had my laptop or something, maybe that's what I'd need to bring around. Um, Editing, like, have you messed with any editing or anything like that on like OBS, like you do for
No,
video editing?
no, I haven't. Just gaming.
Yeah,
But
that's. Oh,
for
go ahead.
editing, the CPU really does make a difference when it comes to editing.
Yeah, it's a very lengthy process. You've seen in my videos, probably that I really hate editing because I don't do a whole lot of it.
Do you know what CPU you have now?
David, what I can't remember. Hey, David. I'm not sure. It's a pretty old computer. It's like a Dell Inspiron 5 or something like that. It's like 5 or 6 years old.
The past 2 years, CPUs have really come a long way. There's actually a lot of competition going on now between AMD and Intel, and because of that, Intel has been stepping up their game and their processors, and they're getting better and better in the past couple of years. They really stagnated before that for many years. Were stuck with 4 cores, and the more cores you have really does make a big difference when it comes to editing. And the past 2 years, like the core count on Intel has increased from 4 to 8 on their mainstream desktop CPUs. These are the affordable ones. I'm not talking like the crazy extreme processors you could spend 2 grand on, but your normal mainstream processors for the common everyday people have really improved in the past 2 years.
Okay, so when you say cores, it's like I know more cores are better, and I've been hearing that for a long time. To be honest, I have no idea what a core is.
A core is pretty much like an individual CPU inside of the CPU. So you got your CPU, and then inside that CPU, there's each core is like it acts as its own CPU.
Okay. Okay, so more is better, basically, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, not always. Clock speeds play a factor too. Like in gaming, um, sure, extra cores is important, but not as important as it is in editing. When it comes to editing, the extra cores are really more important. But when it comes to gaming, the frequency, the clock speed, comes into more of a factor than cores would.
Okay, and as far as like, do you play a lot of competitive gaming? I imagine online.
Yes, I play a lot of first-person shooters. Right now, I'm playing Call of Duty Black Ops 4,
Ah, okay.
and before that, I played Titanfall 2, and like I play to win. Like I don't screw around.
Yeah, that's how I believe you should play everything. Like I always say, if you don't finish, what's the point? But yeah. So do you use like your mouse and your keyboard generally, or a controller, or depending on what kind of game you're playing?
Well, since I came over from Xbox 360, I still use a gamepad. Now I am at a disadvantage by using a gamepad to someone who has been using a keyboard and mouse their whole life, because you can't get the same accuracy and response time with a controller like you can with a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, I've heard that when people first told me and they were getting into PC gaming and I was still into console and they're like, "Oh, I'm beating people because I'm using a mouse and a keyboard." I didn't understand. It's like, what in the world are you talking about? It amazed me that people could get that in depth with a mouse and a keyboard as opposed to this controller that I was so comfortable with and forms to your hand. But
if you're more comfortable with the controller, you'll probably do better with the controller than a keyboard and mouse for probably a couple years until you become really comfortable with the keyboard and mouse.
Do you find yourself practicing doing the mouse and keyboard now to try to get better to switch over?
Yeah, I've tried it and I played horribly. Like I got totally destroyed on Call of Duty with the keyboard and mouse compared to using a controller.
I can't imagine how I would do. I would just get killed. I'm not very good at first-person shooter games anyways. I'm more into the fighting games. But yeah, young David, it was fascinating to me, and he was talking to me about, just the difference. Like it was last Christmas, we bought him a gaming mouse and some other stuff for his computer, but what a difference the mouse made.
Oh, for sure, for accuracy and for speed. It's definitely better.
There's a lot of these guys. I mean, they're making their money. They're making their money on playing games and competitive games. Gaming has become so big, much bigger than I ever thought it would. And I really, even probably as early as 5 years ago, or maybe a little more than 5 years ago, I thought that's an absolute joke. This is going to pull over. And then I couldn't believe that people were watching other people play games online, and now it's like just normal. I would have never believed that people would watch me commentate fights, though, and now it's normal.
Mm-hmm. It's been a total shift in our culture in the past 10, 15 years.
I think it's actually very great now that I've gone into it, because I think we get much deeper conversations. We get a much deeper understanding of things that we're doing, and gaming's not just, it's not like just that thing a teenager's doing anymore with like the Nintendo. It's like, yeah, when you're playing Mario back in the day and your parent, my parents were like, oh, it's a waste of time. It's like, oh, well, yeah, back then maybe it was, but it was fun. And it's like now, you can make a career out of it. It's, very complicated. You're engaging your brain at very high levels.
Oh, sure. Yeah, like it's definitely a lot better than watching TV, because you're just sitting there like a bump on a log, not engaging your mind. For sure, I agree with that.
Yeah, I've been really surprised by the cultural shift, though, and the shift that I've noticed in myself. It's like I remember growing up, my parents, they weren't big on TV, but I do remember one of my grandfathers, that's like all he did until the day he died, is basically he would sit and watch TV after he retired. He retired early, 8-10 hours a day, and that's all he needed. And when I was a kid, I loved watching it, but it's like now, I used to love watching a football game. Now it's like sitting down for 3 hours. It's like, what do? I'm walking around. I'm stir crazy. I can't believe we did this for so long.
Yep.
And I mean, maybe our attention spans aren't what they used to be, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of benefits for the ways that we're going with YouTube and podcasts and things. You said you watch some tech people on YouTube, and you've learned a lot from other channels.
Yes. One especially that I find very good is Gamers Nexus. You can check out his channel if you're wanting to get more familiar with computer tech, and he has very good videos. He goes really in depth with everything that he really reviews products mostly, and he'll give you advice on what CPU to go with, what GPU to go with. He has very good reviews on the products, and if you're unfamiliar with PC gaming, if you watch his videos, you'll get a really good idea of how it works.
What was it called again?
Gamers Nexus.
Gamers Nexus. Okay, I'll put a link to that in the description of the video, so you can go back if you wanna. Anybody wants to check that out. I'll check it out myself, I'm sure. Like I said, some of this is almost a different language to me. That's kind of why I wanted to have you on. Now I'm the uncomfortable one. This is your first time on the YouTube, and now you're speaking. I'm kind of trying to speak your language.
Another good channel is Linus Tech Tips.
I've seen him come up in my searches. I think I may have even watched.
He's one of the bigger channels.
Okay.
But he doesn't really go in depth like Gamers Nexus would. Linus Tech Tips is probably a good channel to start with, and then as you get more knowledge, Gamers Nexus would be more enjoyable to watch.
Okay. Yeah, that's been on YouTube. I find it very fascinating that a lot of people, I mean, you have people like PewDiePie and people that, the channels that are very, very popular right now are channels, most of them at least, are channels of very little substance. But I do think that there is a shift going on in momentum, and I think you see it starting with podcasts, with people having an appetite for that long form podcast. I'm a big Joe Rogan fan because he brings on a variety of so many guests, and I've learned so many things from watching those shows. And I hope YouTube's moving the same direction, as opposed to, just, watching somebody concrete their head in a microwave. I don't know if you've seen that video, but...
No, I haven't seen that one. There's so many.
So somebody did. I think I've seen their action on Philip DeFranco because I watch his news show because I find it as impartial about as I've been able to find anywhere. And he was talking about, a person actually stuck their head inside of a microwave and put the concrete in there. This was in Utah, and as you can imagine, the fire department was not very happy when they got there. Of course, the person almost died, and they did it for a YouTube video and a stunt. So
sounds like Jackass.
And Jackass was kind of like a YouTube kind of thing before YouTube. That, and we're talking about America's Funniest Home Videos the other day. I think kind of created this culture of reality TV.
Yeah, it's great. The best thing about it is it gives everybody a voice. They can share it to the whole world. Whereas before YouTube, you were just stuck with the newspaper and books and television.
Oh, I'll tell you, the old media though, they hate it. They hate YouTube. They hate podcasts. They're trying to kill us, but they don't realize they're dying.
Totally agree.
Even a channel as small as mine, I've worked with my advocate on YouTube over and over again. As you know, I'm coming off a 90-day streaming ban. And before that, I don't know that I told anybody, but I was banned for about 3 weeks that I was fighting. And I call them false positives, basically, these big media companies. And my issue has been from England. They flagged them back in the day. They would flag just keywords. They send in a copyright notice, and then you spend all your time and resources just trying to fight and get this back online. But they're threatened. I'm not showing the fight. I'm not going outside of the policies inside my media, which is YouTube. But it's obviously threatening them when, one of my live reactions, and of course I'm a very small channel, and I look online and I actually had more viewers for a UFC on Fox, not than their big TV channel, obviously, had way more viewers, but I had more viewers than their online app, the Fox Sports, like people watching online on the app or through the foxsports.com site.
Who was it that gave you the copyright strike on your Fights with Friends channel again?
It's BT Sports from over in England. There's been 3 people that have sent me, and I've gotten a lot of my videos demonetized too. That people have sent in copyright strikes, and it primarily, I would say, almost only just came from England, and then I got one from Russia. I haven't gotten any from the United States, surprisingly.
That is surprising. Maybe they don't want to create an uproar. I think a lot of people would get pissed off if a lot of YouTubers were getting copyright strikes for nothing.
Yeah, that's true, and it's probably a lot easier to go, across country lines. It's like, oh, what are they going to do? We're all the way over here in this country. Our people are going to defend us, or,
I think there is a rule where you're allowed to have up to 10 seconds. If it's a review or some type of purpose like that, you're allowed to have up to 10 seconds.
Yeah, you're allowed a certain amount as long as it's as long as it's part of your commentary, as long as you're not just putting that out there, just that specific video. And
Yeah.
there was a case not that long ago, I think it was this year actually, that a YouTuber won on a reaction video when they had showed part of an interview. I don't want to misquote, so I might be wrong, but I think it was from CNN. They were on there, and he used this part, and they actually brought a lawsuit against him, and he brought a lawsuit back, and he won, and it scared a lot of people in the big media, and I guess it was a pretty big win for YouTubers. So hopefully that is going in the right direction. They just have to figure out how to monetize it, I guess, correctly, and we are figuring out here on YouTube how to monetize ourselves better. At least I would say. I don't know. Have you ever thought about doing like a YouTube channel or a podcast? I know you listen to a lot of YouTube or watch a lot of YouTube.
Actually, I have thought of it. I do have a YouTube account set up, but I've never tried it. But I've always been entertained by the idea of trying it. But I would have to come up with something that I really like to do and then go with it. And it's possible that I might one day.
Yeah, that's the thing that's important, and we are very fortunate, I believe, to be living in this time, and it's due to technology. Is that we don't. Before it was like, oh, go out and find something you're good at and do it, or something that makes a lot of money, and who cares if you like it, just do it until you're like 65 and 70 and kind of wait, maybe you retire and live 5 good years and then you die. And it's like now I think it's a good thing that's starting to sound more and more absurd to more people.
Yes. I think it's because now it's so hard to work and get ahead. And you could work your whole life and you're always trying to get to where you want to be, but you never really make it. So I think a lot of people give up. They're like, I'm tired running the rat race. I just want to be happy.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's what it's all about in the end anyways. I mean, I know a lot of people that, have a lot more money than I do or maybe ever will have, and they're completely miserable. I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, I used to be one of those people working 60 hours a day trying to get ahead, so to speak, but no matter how much you have, you're always trying to make it to that next level, and it's not really worth it because your health sacrifice your health, your mental well-being, your life, your social life, everything. So it's not really worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can completely understand what you're talking about. Yeah, I was working around 70 hours a week, and I worked for many years, for a job, for a goal. Basically, I was just trying to get to the next level, Mm-hmm. And then within a company, basically within the store level, I got to the highest level that I thought that that you could get to in that store, and it's like, okay, now I'm going to be happy. And it's like I was happy for about a week, and then I was completely miserable. It was one of the most depressing times in my life, actually.
Yeah. When you look back at your life when you're on your deathbed, are you going to think, oh man, I should have worked an extra Saturday that week, or oh man, I wish I would have stayed in the office or my job a little longer that day? You're never going to think that on your deathbed. You're going to think, oh man, why didn't I spend more time with my family? Why didn't I, follow my passion in life? That's what you're going to be thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. I know they've done some studies too of people on their deathbed, and yeah, those are their biggest regret, especially for men, and I imagine it will get more for women as women have been in the workforce for longer, but I want like 90% of people said their biggest regret was spending too much time at work and not enough time with family and friends.
Exactly. And once your friends are gone, you can't get those friends back.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I enjoy doing something like this, because it's starting to come over. I do like my YouTube fight companions. it's my entertainment, and I'm trying to create a business out of it at the same time. Like right now, it's like we're not working, we're just having a conversation, but someone could find some value in this that leads to something else, or they could see this video and it could interest them in a channel or a video that you do in the future on a YouTube. And we're just making friends and having conversations.
Hence the name, Fights with Friends.
Yeah, exactly. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I'm actually going to send you this podcast over because it's the most valuable podcast that I've ever listened to as a YouTube creator. It's called How to Consistently Create Something Awesome with Roberto Blake. It was episode 52 on the YouTube Creators Hub and Podcasts. I'll also leave it in the link for anybody that wants to watch it. But what he talked about is becoming he doesn't consider himself a YouTuber, but he considers himself, he said, a creator. He said, I don't work for YouTube. That's a person that answers the phone and emails of very angry people. He says, I'm a creator. And he said, what I realized very early as a creator, he said, was that I had to diversify myself even beyond YouTube. And that's when he started going into podcasting and branding himself in other ways. But it was always about doing something that he enjoyed. And he'd had a similar, quest to both of us, that he'd worked, a lot of hours in a job that he didn't enjoy. He was actually a similar story to Tyson Fury, though. Had had a suicide attempt and long years of depression, and he just started creating stuff. One day, I guess he got on YouTube, and it really made something click for me, because I've struggled at times with anxiety throughout my life, as I'm sure everyone has, and there was something that I noticed that when I was anxious, I couldn't concentrate as much, and it affected my creativity. So I came up with kind of this acronym always. I told people anxiety stifles creativity. So I would try to tell my managers, you can't make people too anxious. You can't get them on too much or they're not going to be as creative.
They won't be able to think as clearly when they're too anxious.
Yeah, exactly. There's something going on in the brain, and I don't think we fully understand it at all yet, but what his video did was it kind of turned the acronym around from me to anxiety stifles creativity. And what he did in his life was creativity stifles anxiety. When he went out there and created something, it's almost like it made like kind of a transformation in his brain to stop thinking about the depressions and the problems and things in his life. And he was creating something for himself that he owned, not for another business or for somebody else.
Makes total sense. When you're composed, you will do your best work. Makes total sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to have to get together sometime. We'll talk about if you decide you want to do the YouTube thing. We'll get together and I will definitely help you as much as I can. You obviously loved on my channel. You got a lot of extensive knowledge on technology. You're a good speaker. You've probably been more comfortable in this interview than I have, just because I'm not as familiar with the subject.
Well, I'm going to admit I was a little nervous, but, first time on the internet, who wouldn't be, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think you did a lot better than I did my first time, if I'm going to be honest.
Thanks. I think it helps that I've talked to you through your channel before, kind of helped out a little bit.
Yeah, it's more comfortable with people, people with friends and things like that. So you're used to hearing my voice all the time. I'm not.
Yeah.
Now I know what your voice sounds like. I always see you, on the keyboard and stuff. But it's good to actually.
When I say something on your channel, you'll think of my voice when you're reading it.
Yeah, exactly. I'll think of, man, Jason. He's the nice, great guy that I thought he was. All right. Well, Is there anything else for the layman that's maybe watching this, since this isn't a tech show? Is there any other advice you might have for people that you think would help people in their computing or gaming?
When it comes to, well, basically it boils down to this. It depends what resolution you're going to be gaming at and what frame rate you want. And you pretty much have to match the hardware you're buying to that. That's pretty much the best advice when it comes to purchasing any sort of PC hardware. Because if you buy, like, say, a 4K monitor and the hardware is not powerful enough to drive that monitor, you just wasted your money. So if you're going for a budget build, you want to stick to a 1080p 60 hertz monitor. That's bottom of the barrel in 2018. And top of the line right now is 4K 144 hertz. But a system to run that would cost you several $1,000s, whereas a 1080p 60 hertz will cost you somewhere with the monitor would cost you somewhere under $1,000. So.
Yeah, I don't know where this 4K is going. I don't know if it's all that much better. And I remember them talking about the 8K for a while, and that talk kind of seemed to disappear. So I'm not sure if that's the direction.
4K is just a new monitor just came out for 4K gaming, and it's 144 hertz 4K, and that monitor will run you $2,000.
Oh wow! Oh,
yeah,
that's
and that's just a little 27-inch monitor.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah, see, somebody like me, I mean, maybe if I watched it for a while, I could notice the difference.
I would not buy that.
You would buy that?
I would not buy that.
Oh, you would not buy it? Yeah.
It's for the price for what you're getting, it's just not worth it right now. Right now, the sweet spot is 1440p, 165 hertz. Seems to be the sweet spot for price to performance right now.
Okay.
New tech seems to be overpriced and not worth it. Especially with GPUs right now. There's a new technology that just came on the market called RTX from NVIDIA, and it's just a better technology for reflections in game. Like when you walk up to a water puddle, you'll see reflections from the game world in it accurately.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a brand new technology, but the technology is way overpriced right now, and the performance hit by using that technology will render your $1,600 video card perform as well as a $400 video card by using that technology.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so the top of the line is not really worth it unless you have more money than you know what to do with.
You're kind of like one of those people that just want to be the first one with every system, huh? That's kind of how I bought into the Dreamcast, I think, back in the day.
Yeah, I never bought into the RTX. I went with when the RTX came out, it was too expensive for what you get, so I went with the last generation, and I got a very good deal on it. And the price to performance was way better than the newer technology that came out. So when you're buying also, if you buy a last generation video card at the very first day a new generation comes out, you might be able to get a very good deal on the last generation that it makes sense to buy the last generation.
Okay, and
that was the case with NVIDIA's latest release with the RTX line of graphics cards, because the new technology drastically increased the price of the technology, and it made sense to go with a 1080 Ti over the 2080 because it performed equally the same, but you're saving $100 to $200 for something that performs equally the same. And if you're a first-person shooter gamer and you want the nice, smooth gaming performance and experience, if you use RTX, you'll be totally destroying that just to have the game to look a little bit better.
Yeah, I do have, that brings up one more question I did have for you, as far as like online gaming and PC, when you're talking about seconds, and maybe we're past that part as far as like lag and things, but where do you think the break-off is for somebody that was in gaming computers where they're going to start to maybe be at a disadvantage? Is lag still an issue?
Oh, lag's a huge issue. When you're playing single-player games, it's not much of an issue. You might be able to feel it but you won't be able to notice it unless you've seen the difference. That's a big thing. Um, for example, like there's lag with your starts with your internet connection, and then from there you have lag on your monitor, and then from there you also have lag on your input device, whether it be your controller or your mouse. So you can cut down lag and response time on your game by having a better mouse or gamepad, and preferably you'd want it to be wired. You'll save off milliseconds, which you won't notice, but if you improve every link in the chain, you'll be able to notice greatly.
Okay, yeah, I remember back in the day when I really only played online extensively through, a little bit past the Dreamcast, but I do remember playing like on Unreal Tournament and somebody would have a better connection. It's like
Yeah.
they come up behind you and kill you before you knew they were there.
That's the biggest thing. Connection is definitely the biggest thing. And generally, it comes down to ping, is what's called ping, and that's your internet's response time, how fast it can respond with the other server. And generally, you want it to be under, I would say 70 would be good. Ideally, you want it between 0 and 50, and the lower the better, obviously. But once it gets to around 100, then you can really notice it, and it totally ruins the gaming experience.
And that's milliseconds, correct?
Yes. But
Okay.
the downloads and upload speed doesn't matter much. You won't notice a difference between a 100 megabyte download connection and a 10 megabyte download connection while online gaming. What you will notice, though, is the ping. That is the most important.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Your reaction time and when you see things as opposed to the person that you're going against.
Yep.
Well, hey, this has been fun, Jason. I think I'm a little more taxed brain-wise than I thought I was after the podcast last night. Thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. I hope you do start a channel in the future. And when you do, I'll be there to answer any questions that you have and look forward to working with you on it.
Oh, thanks, Mike. More than likely, I will. I actually have a lot of time now. I'm off work for the winter. I can't lay bricks when it's freezing outside, so I'll have time that I could actually start it, look into it.
Oh, very true. Okay, all right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for another episode of Mike Reviews It All, our first tech show here. And thank you again to my guest, Jason Azevedo, for joining us. As always, I love you, I respect you, and I'll see you fine guys and girls later.